Torah commands us, Usefartem lochem, you shall count for yourselves the counting of the Omer for 49 days. The word Usefartem lochem, you shall count to yourself, to you, says that Tzemach Tzedek means as follows, that your lochem, your attributes, your character traits shall be usefartem, shall be full of light and brilliance. We need to bring brilliance and light and illumination into ourselves, into our 7 emotions of kindness, of severity, of mercy, to make sure that each one of these attributes are beautiful and perfect and give off light to the rest of the world. This is the general objective of the counting of the Omer, to make yourself more beautiful, these 7 character traits. Each day of the Omer, we count the day. Today is day 1. It comes to the second day. We don't say today is the second day of the Omer. We say today is 2 days of the Omer. In other words, we count the cardinal numbers, not the ordinal numbers. What's the reason for this? The reason for this is, being that the Sefirat HaOmer is going up a ladder. Each day we're getting better and better, more and more refined, more and more light, more and more brilliance. So now, on day 2, not only did I enter into the second phase, but I also have the accomplishments of day 1. On day 30, I have the accomplishments of all 29 days as well. So it's not the 30th day, it's 30 days of accomplishment, 30 days of journeying, 30 days of Sefirat HaOmer, of bringing brilliance and light into my life. With that in mind, let's take it a bit further into halachic questions to understand what is the true definition of Sefirat HaOmer. Is it 1 mitzvah or is it 49 separate mitzvahs? There are 2 separate opinions. Some say it's actually 49 separate mitzvahs, and each night is a separate mitzvah. And therefore, if you miss one night, theoretically, you should be able to count the next night with a bracha. Other opinions say it's 1 long mitzvah. Because it's 1 mitzvah, if you miss out one night, you cannot count the next night again with a bracha. The halacha is, we compromise, and we say that each night you should count, and even if you miss out one night, you continue to count the rest of the nights without a bracha. So we count each night. If you are counting each night with a bracha and you don't miss a night, then beautiful. For 49 nights, you make 49 brachas. But let's say you missed out night number 3. Now comes night number 4. You continue to count. Tonight is the 4th night. But you don't say the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Asher Kiddushanu B'Mitzvos V'Tzivanu Al Sefirat HaOmer. You can no longer make the bracha. This is the halacha. Comes the question to mind as follows. If it's 1 mitzvah, according to the opinion that it's 1 mitzvah, why are we making 49 separate brachas? You should make 1 bracha either at the beginning or 1 bracha all the way at the end. Number 2, if it is truly 1 mitzvah, and I already recited the Omer for, let's say, 10 days, and I missed out the 11th day, we established that I can no longer make a bracha on the 12th day. But in essence, we have a bigger problem. Because if it's 1 mitzvah and I missed out 1 day, theoretically all the other brachas that I said in the previous nights is now a bracha levatola. It's a bracha in vain. Because I missed out the continuation of the mitzvah. So how do we reconcile this idea that on one hand it's 1 mitzvah, yet on the other hand we make each night a new bracha? The Lubavitcher Rebbe has a beautiful, innovative insight to the concept of the Omer, which will answer additional questions, as we'll soon see. For example, if there is a bar mitzvah boy who becomes bar mitzvahed during the days of Sefirat HaOmer, so let's say he becomes a bar mitzvah boy on day 23. Now, the first 22 days, he had no obligation to do mitzvahs. So those first 22 days, he really didn't count the Omer. Can he begin to count the Omer on day 23? Another example, a convert who converts to Judaism. Day 33 of the Omer. The first 32 days, they couldn't count the Omer. They weren't Jewish. Now they're Jewish. They have a mitzvah to count the Omer. Can they count the Omer with a bracha? Another question. Moshiach, God willing, will come today. And the first days before Moshiach came, theoretically, the entire concept of the counting of the Omer today, according to many opinions, is only rabbinic, because we don't have a holy temple, and we can't bring the korban Omer, the sacrifice of barley, yet we continue to count the Omer rabbinically. Mashiach is going to come in the middle of the Omer. It's going to become now a Torah law. The temple will be built immediately. We're going to start bringing sacrifices. So now we have the obligation to count the Omer. Can we count the Omer with a bracha? It's a whole new category. So we have all these questions. How do we reconcile these questions? So the Rebbe says like this. First and foremost, the mitzvah of Sefirat HaOmer is as follows. Every single day is a new mitzvah. And therefore, every single day we make a new bracha. But what is the mitzvah? The mitzvah is that on day one, you count day one. And the mitzvah of day two is to count day two. The mitzvah of day three is to count day three. Therefore, if you miss out one day, if you miss out day two, you can no longer count day three, because in order to have three, you first have to have one and two.
So there's no doubling up. If you break a chain, you break the chain. Oh, okay.
So now the chain is broken. You can no longer count, but each link on the chain is a separate link. Each day is a separate mitzvah. But the mitzvah is still building on the day previously. So therefore, you can count, let's say, for the first 10 days and accidentally miss out the 11th day. You fulfill 10 mitzvahs. However, from a day 12 onward, you can no longer recite the bracha because you are missing that link to the chain, you're missing that brick, and you can no longer build higher on that building. So this answers the question how on one hand it's every day a separate mitzvah, yet on the other hand, if I miss one day, why I can no longer count with the bracha. Now comes the question to mind. As follows. What about a bar mitzvah boy? What about a mitzvah boy who had no obligation to count the first 10 days? So if he had no obligation to count the first 10 days, it's as if he doesn't have the first 10 days. So now he's bar mitzvah on day 11. Can he begin to count with a bracha on day 11? So the answer is as follows. There's a chakira. A chakira means a theological and theoretical debate. What creates a metzius? What creates a reality? Does counting something create a reality? Or is the mitzvah to count create the reality? We say like this, that because God gave us a commandment, a mitzvah, to count, now that we count, that counting becomes a reality. So I count today, day one, there's a mitzvah to count, it makes today a special day, it's day one. So this is called a metzius. Even though the metzius is a rabbinical metzius, it's a rabbinic mitzvah, but the mere fact that we were given the commandment to count, even rabbinically, it creates a reality. And therefore, based on this concept, that now it becomes a reality, the Rebbe says that if a bar mitzvah boy became bar mitzvah on day number 10, but he counted the first 9 days as a minor, and he made a bracha the first 9 days, So because he made a bracha the first 9 days, even though it was a rabbinic bracha, in other words, chinuch, Jewish education, is a rabbinic law. So now that he made a bracha those first 9 days, he has the mitzias, he has the reality of the first 9 days. Now that he becomes bar mitzvah on day number 10, he can continue to count with a bracha, even though now he's an adult and he goes into a new category. And now he has a mitzvah to count based on Torah law. He can continue the counting even though the first 9 days he was not yet bar mitzvah. This is true for a bar mitzvah boy, but it's not true for a convert. Because let's say a convert becomes converted on day number 10 of the Sefirah. And even if they counted the first 9 days with a bracha to practice, being that they were not Jewish, so there was no mitzvah to count those first 9 days. Now on day number 10, they become converted. What is the law of a convert? Says the Talmud, a convert is like a brand new born child, a new baby that came into the world. They didn't exist yesterday, and now they do exist. So if they didn't exist yesterday, the bracha they said yesterday was non-existent. So the first 9 days, they really made no bracha. Now they hear day number 10, and they're Jewish, they are born, they cannot recite Sefirah with a bracha, because they don't have the first 9 days. Now let's take it one step further. What about Moshiach? Let's say Moshiach comes on day number 10 of Sefirat HaOmer. Once Moshiach comes, the temple is built. Now you have all the mitzvahs once again reestablished. Everything is Torah law. Can I count Sefirat HaOmer on day number 10? So the answer is, if I counted the first 9 days with the bracha, the first 9 days, even though it had the law of rabbinic law, not Torah law, but it created the mitzias, as we explained earlier. It created this reality of a day 1, day 2, day 3. So that is enough for me to continue now to make a bracha on day number 10, even though it's now a different category, because the mitzias, the reality of the days, were already established because of the fact that I made a bracha each and every day. So this is a theoretical, deep, halachic debate in the concept of Sefirat HaOmer, and the question was now raised, do we still have to count when Moshiach comes? And the answer is absolutely. Because you can argue, and this is actually a question brought down in Chassidus. Thank you for the question. If we say that the idea of counting Sefirat HaOmer is to take us out of impurity, as we know that we were 49 levels of impurity when God took us out of Egypt. And now, in order to receive the Torah, we began to count 49 days to pull ourselves out, to schlep ourselves out of this mud, of this impurity, this tumah, to now become purified and ready to receive the Torah on Sinai. So when Moshiach comes, it says, the spirit of impurity will be removed from the face of the earth. There'll be no longer evil in the world, no bad in the world, no suffering, no pain, no death, no illness. All forms of darkness are going to be removed from the face of this earth. So if that is the case, do I need the mitzvah of Sefirat HaOmer? So the answer is that Sefirat HaOmer has many different layers and many different angles. There is the concept that we say milmata l'mayla, which is from below to above, and that is, yes, to pull ourselves out of the impurity. But there's also a concept of milmayla l'mata, which means from above to below, that each day God shines upon us more and more light and more blessing. This aspect of Sefirat HaOmer will still be in effect after Moshiach comes. Each day we're going to climb higher. Each day we're going to have more light. Each day we're going to receive more blessing. So the answer is yes. The idea of Sefirat HaOmer, which literally Sefira means light and illumination, will still be in effect after Moshiach comes. So this is the concept of Sefirat HaOmer and halacha, how each day has a mitzvah, but the mitzvah of counting of the Omer is predicated on the day before, and therefore we're truly building higher and higher each and every day of the counting of the Omer. Sefirat HaOmer, even though according to halacha is a mitzvah for men, because any positive commandment that has a specific time zone, women are exempt from doing. Yet the Alter Rebbe brings down in Shulchan Aruch that the women have accepted upon themselves this mitzvah of counting the Omer each and every day, because they too are preparing themselves for Sinai. And as we know, that in reality, women have a greater role in Sinai than the men, because when it came to the giving of the Torah, God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Koi Shomer the Beis Yaakov, V'saged Livnei Yisrael. First speak to the women, then talk to the men. The reason behind this is, we explained many times, is because in the Garden of Eden, God told Adam not to touch the forbidden, or eat rather, from the forbidden fruit. And Adam, when he gave over the message, he confused the message. And therefore, Eve didn't understand it exactly. And the whole thing went to kaput, as they say. So when it came to the giving of the Torah, God said, let's try the reverse. I'm going to first talk to the women, then we'll talk to the men. Because if the women get it right, if the women want to do it, then we know that the Torah will truly be everlasting. So Sefirat HaOmer, being that it's the introduction to the receiving of the Torah, the women said, we want to count the Omer every day. And therefore the love that women have for the counting of the Omer is even greater than the love the men have. We have to do it because of the commandment, if you like it or not. But when a woman says, I'm doing it voluntarily because I love to do this, this shows a greater connection and a greater relationship between Almighty God. Similarly, the idea of 7 weeks is 7 weeks of purity. As we said a moment ago, the idea of counting the Omer is because the Jewish people were in a state of impurity. And now for 7 weeks, we leave that state of impurity to get closer to God to receive the Torah. God is the husband. We, the Jewish people, are the bride. Just like we discussed in the parsha previously, that when a woman has her period, so she waits 7 white days to be able to reunite with her husband. The same is true now. The Jewish people have 7 weeks, called 7 white weeks, that we purify ourselves to become ready to receive this union with Almighty God on Sinai. So there are many connections between the counting of the Omer and the role of the Jewish woman. Okay. One final story. In 1923, on Lag BaOmer, as is the custom every year, thousands of Jews make a pilgrimage to Meron, which is the final resting place of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai the Rashbi. The Rashbi, according to Kabbalah, was a nitzutz, a spark of the soul of Moses. Moses came down the first time to give us the revealed Torah on Sinai. And on Lag BaOmer is the day of Matan Torah, of the giving of the Torah of Kabbalah. And the Rashbi dedicated his life to teach these secrets of the Torah. On the day of his passing, of Lag BaOmer, he revealed what you call Nishmasa de Nishmasa, which means the soul of the Torah, Razin de Iraisa, the secrets of Torah. So each year, on the day of Lag BaOmer, we celebrate this amazing day, because when a tzaddik leaves the world, being that a tzaddik lived a perfect life, each day they're going higher and higher, like the Omer. And on the day of the passing, they reach the pinnacle, they reach the highest level of perfection. And each year, on their yahrzeit, all their good deeds and all their Torah study and all the chesed and charity that they did throughout their life come together on this day, and it becomes elevated. Because each year on the yahrzeit, they go a higher level on a higher level. And those people that are connected to them or connect to them are also elevated on that day. And therefore, it's a day of tremendous blessing and light and sefira and illumination for all those who connect with the Rashbi on his day of passing. The day of Lag BaOmer is also famous for little children having an upshed and having a haircut. As you know, it's the custom that we don't give a child, a boy, before the age of 3, an upshed and a haircut. The reason is because man is compared to the tree in the field. In the first 3 years, the fruit of the tree are called arla, are prohibited to eat. The same is true. So the hair is now like the tree. We don't touch the hair for the first 3 years. Now that the child is 3 years old, he begins his formal education. You cut the hair, you leave his payas, his hair locks, you put him on a yarmulke and tzitzis. That's the custom of the upshedding. The problem is that a child who's born between Pesach and Lag BaOmer can't get his hair cut because it's a Jewish custom that we don't cut our hair for the 33 days of the Omer because of the fact that 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva passed away during this time. So now a child is born this time, somewhere between Pesach and Shavuos, or before Lag BaOmer, and his third birthday arrives, he cannot take a haircut because you don't cut your hair. So what do? You wait until Lag BaOmer. So you have now all these children who are born during Pesach and up to Lag BaOmer, at least over 33 days of children coming together, and they all get their hair cut on Lag BaOmer. It's a big day for haircuts. So all the little children come to Maron to celebrate the passing of the Rashbi, and at the caver, at his tomb, they do the haircut. That's the custom. And in many communities, they all come together to the shul on that day to celebrate the upshedding of a 3-year-old child. In 1923, girls don't have to do this. They can take a haircut right away. And many girls pierce their ears right away. They don't have a bris, so they do their ears right away. It's the same thing. Okay. So it's a different spiel. They have a bas mitzvah, they get married younger. It's a whole different story. Okay. So on the 3rd birthday, they come to Maron. In 1923, Lag BaOmer was the same as this year, which was Thursday night, Friday. And they came to Maron, and all these children came to have the upshedding. Now, being that it was Friday, so the people that lived in Safat and Tiberia and Haifa in the Galilee, they went home before Shabbos. They had time to go home before Shabbos. But the Jews that were from Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, they couldn't get back before Shabbos. So they stayed in Maron that Shabbos. Shabbos morning, there was 3 minyanim, there was Hashkama, and then there was the regular time, and then there was the later time, and they were eating and drinking and celebrating. In the middle of all of the celebration, there was a loud, bitter wail that shattered the shimmering atmosphere of the Shabbos. A mother who brought her child up to Maron for the upshedding, all of a sudden the child stopped breathing. And they performed first aid, and they could not revive the child. So the mother begins to scream. She now takes her child and carries the child all the way to the kever, to the tomb of the Rashbi. And she puts down the child right on the tomb of the Rashbi. And she says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, my Rebbe, you know that 4 years ago, I made an oath that if you would bless me with a child, I would bring my child to you on Lag BaOmer for the haircut. And that's what happened. A year later, I had a child. And on Lag BaOmer this year, my child was 3 years old. And I brought him to you for the upshed. And this is the way you welcome me. I know that you are a tzaddik. I know that you can bring back the dead. I beg you, please, I don't want to bring home a dead child. And she went on to say, Yiskadal v'yiskada shmei Rabbo. Please, make great the name of God. Exalt the name of God. Hallow the name of God. Give me back my child. And she turns around and she walks out of the room of the tomb of the Rashbi. And she closes the door. And all the Chassidim and all the Yidden and all the Sfardim and all the Jews that were there that morning continue to follow her out. And a few minutes later, they hear a cry from inside the room. Mommy, Mommy, I'm thirsty. I want some water. And she turns back and she picks up her child and she brings him home. This was a Lag BaOmer miracle. Lag BaOmer is a day of tremendous miracles. It's a day of tremendous blessing. And therefore, each one of us on Lag BaOmer should connect somehow with the Rashbi by studying more Torah, by studying the secrets of the Torah, by studying the Zohar, by giving more charity and more prayer. And we hope and pray that, as it says in the introduction to the Zohar, with this book, the Jewish people will be remembered from exile, will leave exile with peace. And so we hope and pray to see the ultimate Geula, the coming of Moshiach, from Hera, B'Yameinu, Amen.